Going. Welcome everybody. My name is Nicholas Breakwell. I'm the Chief Executive of the St. Nicholas Montessori Society, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you to this, the third in the Society's Mood Reboot series, where we are bringing you a series of uplifting presentations in an effort to reboot your mood as we emerge from lockdown. This evening's speaker is Benji Bennett, an Irish dad and children's author. After the loss of his son Adam, Benji wrote and published his first book, Before You Sleep. With unprecedented sales, this emotionally powerful book immediately stole the hearts of the nation and went on to win the Children's Book of the Year award. Since then, Adam's message of love, hugs and kisses, expressed through a series of 9 best-selling books, has continued to travel the world and has sold over 600,000 copies. With 7 nominations and 2 winners of the Irish Children's Book Award, these books are one of the best loved family reading series available today. And the really wonderful news is that you could be in with a chance to read all 9 of these books to your own children. At the end of the webinar this evening, we will draw 2 lucky winners who will each receive Benji's 9-book box set. So do stick around to the end to have a chance to win that box set. Now, I believe we're going to start the presentation with a brief video highlighting the highlights of some of Benji and Adam's story before handing over to Benji himself, who will lead the rest of this webinar. So welcome again. And at the end, there will be an opportunity to ask Benji some questions about the books and his experience and reading to children. So if you do have any questions, feel free to ask those at the end, and we'll manage that when we get there. So without further ado, Steve, please play the video, and then we'll hand over to Benji after that.
That 10 minutes at the end of the day, one-on-one time, tell your kids you love them, share it with the lovely book, and create that warm, loving experience at bedtime. And that's
it just came to me that we were very, very lucky. We told Adam we loved him every single day.
we have to make sure that every parent cherishes every moment, because, you know, it's happened so quick. The message, which is spend as much time with your children, give them a massive big hug,
and tell them you
love them every single day.
When we were mentioning Catherine Zeta-Jones and Michael Douglas, you were kind of shaking your head laughing, like you never in your wildest dreams would have imagined that they'd be sitting there reading your books about your son to their children.
So everything is relative, and you do learn, as I have learned, and I think a lot of other people, no matter what happens to you, you manage to deal with what you've been handed. I think it's the support structure that goes around people will get them further down the road. And if something happens so sudden like that, you don't have a chance to go back and say it.
And I'm trying to encourage people at the weekends, just go for a walk, you know, bring them up the mountains, do anything, do you know what I mean? So it's all about time with them.
That was the last time anybody saw his little brown eyes again.
And when he left, it was all very, you know, very calm and surreal and wonderful and beautiful.
Where we are now is in a new phase of our lives. There's a message there to tell your kids you love them every day, because if you don't, you can't say it after they're gone.
Hello everybody, it's lovely to be here, and I'm not going to keep you all night. As I said, my name is Benji Bennett, and you saw in the video there, I'm Adam's dad, and that's what I am first and foremost, and I just happen to have written some books. The main reason why I wrote those books is to really try and help create a loving, magical and wonderful bond between parents and their children. When Adam died, it was just around the time of the top of the boom, and everything was kind of a bit crazy. Everybody was busy, and you know, everybody was doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and you know, the whole essence of family was kind of beginning to kind of struggle a little bit because everyone was so busy. So part of my message that was given to me when we lost Adam, which happened immediately, was to try and just just give people a nice, small, gentle reminder of how important it is for the children to receive that bedtime story at night, particularly in those informative years between 0 and kind of 4. And that's really what drives everything that I do. And I'm delighted now to be asked to come along tonight and just talk about my experiences, the message that we're trying to deliver. And hopefully what I'm trying to do is to plant a little seed with you, which will give you not kind of the tools and so on, because every child is different, every family is different, every mum and dad is different, everyone's come from different backgrounds and so on. But the basic leveling of everything is family. And for a child to be told that they're loved, that transcends through all different generations, it transcends through all different social demographics. For a child to be loved and be reassured each night before they go to sleep is something that I am a huge believer in, is that what makes them resilient and gives them the best opportunities in life. So this isn't a psychology talk. I'm not a doctor, I'm a dad. I've observed, so over the years, a lot of what the chats that I've had with people have always been about the importance of reading, the benefits that they would have. And I have seen a huge difference between a child that's been read to and a child that hasn't been, and it is very, very stark. One of the things that I'd like to talk to you firstly about is you know, my own experience of having children. So I have 4 children. Harry is our oldest. Then we had Adam and Robbie, and we had 3 children. Adam was taken very sick very, very suddenly from us, and within 12 hours of being admitted to hospital, we had lost him to an undiagnosed brain tumor. Devastating. Our life was absolutely ended. But one of the things that gave both myself and my wife a huge amount of solace and strength out of us is that we told Adam we loved him every day. We balanced our lives between work and family, so there wasn't any of the issues that we would have dealt with of that kind of regret, and so we were very, very lucky. It was just by chance that, you know, I was lucky enough that we spent time with Adam. And after losing him and knowing that how lucky I was desperate to share that message. If everybody can tell their children they love them and spend time with them, not only do the children have a great chance to develop and to be really happy when they're older and have that resilience, but it will also help anybody who would potentially come through the misfortune of anything awful like that happening, because you'll have known that you've spent your time. So that's really the driver of my experience and the message that I have. So when I started writing, it really was about to help push that message of, you know, spend time with your children, tell them you love them. And there was also this thing about bring them for a walk. I mean, they're my 3 main things of trying to help raise a happy child. And I have this image on the back here, and that's actually Adam. But my hope is that every child will go to sleep like this, being told that they're loved, happy, and that's the basis of sweet dreams, and you wake up happy then the next day. So the reason why I'm privileged to talk to you about the importance of in particular reading and to be able to get that message across is that when a child is born, it's like the birth of a universe. First of all, there's nothing, and they're born and they're out into this world. And their brains have billions and billions of these little neurons that have not been connected. And from the moment they're born, these connections keep on being made. And this is when their personality is being developed, not when they're 5 or 6 or 7. It's in those informative years. And I love the idea of every time a neuron and that connection is made, that if a happy, warm, loving moment, or a giggle or a smile or a kiss or a hug or warmth or compassion or reassurance, if any of those experiences happen while these connections are being made, I love the idea that those experiences become locked in and they become core of a child's happiness and personality. And that's why I'm always encouraging from the moment they are born to start reading. That, you know, lovely experience of a parent and child sharing time together doesn't end when they're just 3 or 4. It carries on until they're 7 or 8 or 9, and then they go on their own wonderful journey of discovery through books. So a lot of people will talk about reading and they will say, well, you know, it's their vocabulary and it's their education. And we you know, I'm sure everybody's heard about all of those benefits. But for me, the importance of reading with children is not just the educational side of things and their vocabulary. It's about creating that warmth and that connection and that bond. And again, at those informative years, when a child lies, you know, with you and you hold them, they will have the warmth of your embrace. They will feel the beat of your heart and they will hear the sound of your voice. And when you couple all of that with expressions of love towards them, that for me is the ultimate experience that a child deserves, to give them the best chance of happiness throughout their lives. I have a little video that I'm going to quickly run that I hope kind of gets across visually how that experience can look. Now, it's only a 15-second video. It's part of a kind of an ad that I have running, but I'm hoping this is going to get across something special of the magic of reading. It's not just the adventure and the stories, it's about that emotional connection. So I'm going to hopefully be able to find that for you, which is, I think it's this one. So you can see from that one there that it's just, those images are from people who have taken pictures, you know, reading the books. And it's not just about my books, it's any book, but once it's an emotive book where it's a togetherness and a bond, that for me really kind of represents the power of reading. And I hope that short video kind of gives you a sense of how wonderful and special the experience can be of reading, to create that powerful emotional bonding experience before bed. So one of the things about, you know, this whole my message is that there's an underpinning philosophy that goes underneath it, and it's a philosophy that I live by. And so far, you know, we've been very lucky. I never mentioned earlier on, after we lost Adam, we had Harry and Robbie, and then we had a little girl, Molly, afterwards, and it's brought us, you know, so much happiness. And I strongly believe that the philosophy that we've had, we have our issues, of course, and yes, we row and we shout and we do all of those things like every other family. So, you know, and I have my moments that I wouldn't be proud of, as Jackie would and Harry would and so on. So you have your times, and that's just normal family. But overall, the best way of describing the philosophy that I have is that it's family comes first. Now, what I mean by that is that everybody has to have a little bit of time for themselves, but you also have to put time into the family. And the best way I can describe this really is that, and it's from my own experience, I love, you know, watching the rugby and the Six Nations and so on. And before there was children, that would have been a big day. You know, I'd go out and I'd meet some friends, or, you know, we'd have a night out, or we go to the match or whatever it is. And then as the children came along, I was like, okay, going to the match is not really much of an option. And then it was, okay, well, if I put my family first, so if I go for my walk with the kids, you know, in the morning on that day, and just just do what the family need, not just what I need and not just what Jackie would need, but what we all need. So as a family, we would all go out. What I found was, if I ever put myself last in that pecking order, I usually came first, in the sense that if I didn't say, we have to be back at 3 o'clock to watch the rugby match, I would say, come on, let's go for a walk and let's see how the day goes. And usually what happened for me then was we'd have a beautiful day. Everybody would be happy. We'd naturally probably be home by 3 o'clock. And I was able to enjoy the match because the kids were out running around all day. They were tired and everything was great. So it occurred to me that if we just, put the family ahead of ourselves, we usually come out with something special. And that was one of the experiences that really drove it home for me, that that is a really nice way to keep everything in balance and in check. So it is a simple philosophy that I have. And again, it's not prescriptive in the sense you should do this or you should do that, because there are so many, there's so much information out there. Everyone's getting blasted with, phones and you can't do this. And if they don't do that, and, if they're diagnosed with the other, that's, everybody is different, and everybody's going to deal with that tidal wave of information and worry and how to deal with it. So, my philosophy is very, very much just spend time with the kids, read them a story every night, tell them that you love them, and bring them for a walk and have chats with them. After that, it's everybody's situation is different. But for me, that core basic philosophy is something that is inherent in my book. So at the end of every single book that I would have, no matter what adventure Adam will go on, a child will be told directly to their ears that they are loved. And the last thing that they will hear before they go to sleep is that they are loved. And usually my books have some lovely bonding aspects to them as well. So that is who I am, how I've been inspired to write the books. So, they are deeply inspired. My message is inspired, and so is the philosophy. And they are inspired by the loss of a child. I used to work in Vodafone. I worked in marketing, and I'd go to work and I'd come home and I'd have the weekends and I would just do what everybody else does. And now my life is like a roller coaster of family and work and doing shows and doing talks and the like. And I'm very, very privileged to be able to talk about something that I believe so passionately in, and I really appreciate you all turning up for the day and taking the time to listen to this old dad here, telling you, I'm not trying to tell you how to do anything, but just, telling you what's worked for me with my family. And one of the other things that, reading does, so as well as creating that emotion connection, it builds the communication channels as well. So again, when you're having that that story, there's always those few minutes at the end where you might talk about the book or point out some of the things that were in it, and have a chat about the adventure that you have. But also, as the children get older, that's the time where they're going to tell you, what's bothering them. And that's the 10 minutes that is really important, because when they're calm and when they're relaxed and when they're reassured, that's when they'll open up. And that's when if they're having any trouble in school, or if they're overly happy or excited about something, and so on. So the communication lines start, in those moments. Because most of the time we're really busy. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got about communicating with children is from the principal in the kids' junior school, where he said, if the kids want to ask you something, as much and as often as you can, just stop and go, yes. We've all seen the movies where, the mum or the dad are driving the car and the kid is bothered in the car and they go to ask that question. And the dad, well, I'm probably the worst at doing this, interrupts or talks or whatever, or not listening properly. But if you just give that moment there, that's when the communication happens. and that's when we'll find out. And again, just to really reiterate, those informative years, you know, the 0 to 4, that's when they're made, that's when the personalities are made, and that's the core time to really just create those magical moments. One of the other things as well that we've all been struggling with is COVID. And what's occurred to me recently is that we've had an abundance of time recently. So over the last 12 months, I have spent so much time with my children. They haven't been in school. We're all at the kitchen table and we're playing cards and Monopoly, and they're doing school and chats and so on. But that is a huge amount of time, but it hasn't been quality time. So yes, we've had some fun, but a lot of the time is just, I might be on my phone at work, the kids are on Zoom in school, Netflix is coming on, we're just trying to get through the day, you know, can't go to any shops, and so on. So what I'm kind of have realized now is that with this reboot of what's going on, it's time to say, okay, we don't have to spend all of this time, but if we can make just that quality time, if we can bring it back to that 10 minutes of quality time, you know, the rest of it, you know, it doesn't really matter too much. I often talk about bedtime and those expressions of love. It's like being a big eraser of everything that's happened during the day. So I'd be the first one to say there's times where I'm going to be ratty with the kids or giving out to them, or don't do that, or you're barking at them, hurry up, get your coat on, eat your food, you know, have you got your homework done? Any of those things. So we tend to be barking the orders at them to try and keep the house in some level of making sure that they're getting everything done and their homework and their schoolwork. And then when you have that nighttime, it's a lovely way to just be relaxed. And in a child's mind, it'll just erase all of the little worries that they've had during the day, because you can put your arm around it. And if there was a row during the day, for example, it's a case of, look, don't worry, it was just a really busy day, you know, dad was busy or whatever it is, but you're really great and I love you so much. And then they go to sleep looking like this. So that's really, you know, without going on for too long, for me, I'm hoping that I've got across the essence of what I'm trying to do, what reading can do to inspire happiness, reassurance, resilience, and confidence in children, how it will help develop that communication between them. And also, I'm only in the middle of going through it. I've one 20-year-old who we got through it okay, and I've a almost 15-year-old now in summer. And what I'm hoping is all of the hard work that we did when we were younger is going to help us manage them through that tricky teenage years. So we have the relationship, and we have that respect from them, I suppose, as well. You know, when I talk about discipline, it's not the old-fashioned discipline, but it's very much, you know, respect in the house. And I'm hoping because of that work and that communication and that time spent, that just will hopefully make it easier during all of those tricky teenage years when they want to go out and do all the things they're not supposed to be doing, and have a balance of, you know, trying to manage that, of letting them have fun, yet making sure that they don't get themselves into trouble. And again, the communication that is built from when they were young and through reading and nature is, that's where the honesty comes in, and that's where the trust comes as well. And I suppose the last thing is nature. I've Molly, who is now 12, was reminding of us when she was a baby. She used to be in one of those little, you know, McLaren buggies, and it was raining, and she had the plastic rain cover over her. And she was only talking about this the other day, of how she was in there and it was freezing cold and it was lashing rain. And she talks about how happy she was in there. She was looking out at everybody. She was out in nature. and she could see everybody with umbrellas and, you know, cold or whatever. And she said, I felt really bad because I was in my buggy and I was delighted with it. Now, this would have been when she was about 4, but that experience now, she loves the sound of the rain on a window or on a tin roof. So I hope that gives you a kind of a link between something that happens when they're young and something that makes them happy when they're older. She remembers being happy in that buggy that time, and now she loves the sound of the rain and she's happy when it's raining. So that's pretty not a bad way when you're living in Ireland when it's raining all of the time. So that's a really important you know, part of this, is that to create magical moments. Nature is a wonder for children. It's just full of everything, and it's also full of freedom. They can run off, but they know that you're watching them. And I love the idea of that. You will often see a kid and they're running off and they just turn their head around just to make sure, yes, I'm still being watched and I can go that other bit further. So, and of course, we all know that nature is, you know, spiritual. It is mindfulness. It is happiness. And to be out there, no matter how bad we're feeling, you know, a walk is always going to make you feel better. And there's been times I try to run, and there's been times where I might have a week out of running, and it's amazing. I begin to kind of go, oh, and I make myself do a run, and straight after it, I'm feeling better. So getting out and having that exercise and giving them a love of nature is part of Adam's message. So to kind of recap on my love, hugs and kisses, I mean, I think hopefully I've got that point well across to you. And the nature, the happiness, the resilience, it's from creating those magical moments. It's from creating that reassurance for them. It's making sure that every night they go to sleep with a smile on their face and being told they're loved. And that's where happiness comes from. And that's really the essence of Adam's message. So I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to say and get across. I'm happy to open up to any questions. It can be about my own experience of losing Adam, parenting for what that's worth, publishing, anything what it is. So I'm happy to take any questions. And it's an unusual environment here because you don't necessarily sense the audience, whether they're listening or whether anybody's gone home and gone to sleep. So hopefully you're all still there, and hopefully there's a couple of questions there that I can answer for you.
Yeah, thanks, Benji. If anybody would like to ask a question, I think just go for it. Unmute your microphone and ask the question, or if you prefer, type into the chat and we can look at the question that way.
Brilliant. And again, thanks everybody for coming along.
I had a question, Benji.
Thank you, Benji.
I don't have any children, but I really firstly, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Thanks.
And I just wanted to hear a little more about creating magical moments with your children. Tell me more about that.
Well, it's funny where the magical moments come from. It was actually when I spoke at Adam's funeral service, I remember thinking that every time I did anything with the kids, I wanted them to remember something. So whether it was, you know, look at this ladybird, or, you know, under a rock, and it's just bringing them in close. It's always something that they remember, or dressing up as pirates, or making sandcastles, whatever any of that is. And I was always trying to create those magical moments for Adam to have into his, you know, adulthood and carry on. But it actually turned out that they were my magical moments that gave me the strength to carry on of all the beautiful and wonderful times that we had. Now, little did I know that when I was creating these wonderful memories. I could never have imagined that they would be for me. And one of the things actually that strikes me as well, I remember my dad used to bring myself and my sister up to the Sugarloaf. It's in the Dublin Mountains, and we used to love it. And we'd be always walking around the Dublin Mountains and loving it. And the funny thing is, he instilled that magic of nature in me, and and because I have it, I'm instilling that magic of nature in my children, and because they have it, they'll instill that magic of nature and wonder and adventure in their children. So something that my dad started will hopefully just carry on through the generations, and that then is what I call the DNA in a family, the DNA of getting up, doing things, having fun, going on adventures, and this is part of that philosophy. It's to create that magic. A kiss at bedtime, Santa Claus, you know, when you put the stuff out in front of the fireplace on Christmas Eve, that's creating those magical moments. So it's really everything and everything. Any interaction with a child really is magical once that you're in that moment with them.
A question from Linda here, just about your experience with Adam. You know, first of all, how long ago was that, and then how did you manage your grief and convert it into such a positive thing?
So Adam died in 2007, so I think that makes it 14 years this year, and he was only 4, and it was actually on my birthday as well. So there's also, and our dog is born, that we have now, born on the same day. So there's loads of lovely things there. And how I dealt with the grief, I've spoken about grief a bit before, and one thing that I would say is grief is a choice for me. Okay, I'm not going to talk about anybody else, but for me it was a choice. How am I going to grieve? Am I going to grieve hard and sad, or am I going to grieve hard and happy? And I often talk about a light switch. You can flick a switch in your brain, which is either I'm going to celebrate and I'm going to be happy, or I'm just going to grieve in a destructive, sad way. And one of the drivers behind that, of course, is our family. It was like, well, we had 2 young children, and I went, we can't destroy their lives. We have to, no matter what, we've got to go and get through it. So I think we were a very close-knit family anyway. Myself and Jackie, thankfully, were and are even more stronger now than we were back then. We just live in each other's pockets as well. So we're very rarely apart. So family was what got us through all of this. The time spent together, the celebrating of Adam. I mentioned it before that we spent all of that time with Adam and played with him and told him that he was loved. So we had a few of the boxes ticked in terms of the emotions that you would get from grieving. So that's not to say that it wasn't impossibly, gut-wrenchingly hard and painful and stressful and exhausting and all of those things. But certainly me focusing on the book with this message that I felt I had to deliver to everybody, Jackie being pregnant, and then on his first anniversary for Before You Sleep to be published, and for Molly to be here, we kind of felt, okay, we're fighting this. And and that's kind of how we've done it. We've done it together through family by being positive.
And how did the actual concept of the book, the first book, then kind of arise out of that process?
Well, I started, my first book, which hasn't been published, was trying to remember him through a camping adventure that we had. So I started writing this book about our camping trip, and it was lashing rain one day and we couldn't go, and there was all sorts of stuff in it. And then, I was just sitting in the chair in the kitchen, and I just said, God, I love you much more than a big sandy beach, because we went camping on the beach. And I went, and that was really it. It just started with that moment of inspiration, that one line. I did want to write, and I did want to write about Adam. But then it was, I love you much more. And I said, okay, this is something that a parent can read to a child. And if the parent and child are represented in the illustrations, it becomes much more of a personal bond, and they're represented together in it. So for me, that was that kind of moment of inspiration, I suppose. And the idea of writing a book where a parent says to a child that they love more than space and nature and Halloween and Christmas, but yet they're going on these adventures within the book through the illustrations as well in all of those scenes, for me, really was something special. And I wish I could have read something like that to Adam, that we would have had a great time with, you know.
Sorry, could I ask a question, please, Benji?
Yeah.
This is regarding story writing. Or
talk about copyright and stuff there.
Yes.
So the first thing is, you know, you don't have to, if you write anything on any subject, it's yours. You know, so you might have an opinion. So unless it's word for word, that's your writing. Now somebody could argue that, oh, it's very similar the way they do music, but I never thought about that, to be honest with you. And as you asked me that question, I'm not sure it's something really to worry about. It's like, if you have something to write about, the chances of somebody writing the exact same or very similar is you know, look at all the vampire movies. There's people writing about vampires all the time, but they're all different, or dragons or fairies or whatever it is. So that's that side of it. A lot of people ask me about copyright as well. Oh, I don't want to send it out to anybody in case they steal it. Once you've written it and you have it logged somewhere on timestamps, that's it. That's yours. That's your copyright. You own it. No one can take that away from you unless you sign it away. So I hope that kind of answers.
Yeah, and when you publish yourself, you're your own publisher.
Yeah.
Did you find that difficult to start, or did you find it easier than going down the publishing route?
Yeah, it was still and always will be difficult. It's a challenge because, I mean, it's me, my wife and a friend of ours, and you're trying to sell books to keep the show on the road and keep the kids fed and all that sort of stuff. So it's hugely challenging. Sometimes I wish nearly it was with the publisher, because they just sell it all over the world through all of their channels. But then again, it's Adam, and you know, it's mine, and I, you know,
Yes.
it's not about, well, it's about selling 1 million books, but it's not about, you know, making €1 million or anything like that. So yeah, it has its challenges. There's a lot of mistakes I've made on the way, and yeah, it's just keeping at it. And one of these days I'll be able to relax and go, yes, we're fine. But it's still always still always a challenge.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
And we're all far apart, but all together in this, aren't we?
Exactly, yeah.
But hopefully things are improving. I just wanted to ask you, first of all, thank you very much for today. Your books are wonderful. I work in childcare with children presenting with special needs, etc., etc. And your books are very popular, I have to say. You have many fans here in Cork. And secondly, I was just wondering, have you any plans for any of your stories to be turned into maybe a TV series for children? Have you thought about it? Or
yeah, because I just saw that question there is going to come on to it. So yes, so I'm actually meeting a guy tomorrow, and he's in that production business, and he's done a few documentaries on RTE, and yeah, the two of us are saying, yeah, let's go and do it. So
yeah, that could be quite.
We're talking about doing it, and we have been for the last 12 months, but we're not actually doing any of the doing yet.
Yes, but that's okay. It's good to be talking about it.
Yeah. So no, I think we've both kind of settled on a couple of things, and now it's a case of he knows how all of that business works.
Yeah.
And I'm always excited about, like, between Netflix, Disney Plus, and Amazon Prime, and all these guys, they're all looking for content. So I'm hoping that
RT Junior,
RT Junior have said that if we make it, they will come.
Fantastic.
So fingers crossed, we'll be looking at Adam and Fluff flying around the TV screen sometime.
I think that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'd love that.
It? Yes.
Yeah, that's a big dream. That's a big dream.
One more question.
Yeah.
Have your books published in any other languages?
No. No, I don't. And if anybody wants to, they're more than welcome to have a chat with me.
Yeah.
No,
I'm just curious,
yeah,
you know, to see, like, do your books travel as such, you know?
Some big fans, one fan translated into Spanish, one to French, and one into German. So and they've done that because they've loved the books. So they are rhyming, and I don't know how well rhyming. I don't know if the Gruffalo and all the Julie Donaldson books have travelled well, but
with the rhyming, they left. There's a lot of work, I suppose. You know, I didn't
a lot
think
of work,
that, for tweaking as such. But maybe something. Let's say if you did have your stories or Adam's stories in TV, that you would have maybe perhaps subtitles.
Well, if it was TV, you just dubbed the different languages over, because they wouldn't necessarily be in rhyme in a TV show,
and they wouldn't necessarily need to be. I think that would be great for people in other parts of the world to be able to see this in sort of animation. I can see, when I was looking at your books, I see animation.
Yeah. Oh, me too. I've always hoped that, and I've always hoped as
So best of luck with it, and I'll keep my eyes and ears out and open for the news. Thank you,
Dina. And look, I'm on Facebook most of the time, or if you jump onto the website, you can join my email list there as well. You'll always get a couple of emails during the year.
Yeah, fabulous. So thank you again.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you.
And you. Thanks for your question.
Yeah, there's just one more question here in the chat, Benji, just kind of getting back to encouraging your children to read, and specifically for the kind of 5-year-old child. You know, do you have any tips for parents of 5-year-old children on how to develop good reading habits in the children themselves?
So my biggest tip is to start the moment they're born. That's always what I say, because then it's just, they've grown up with it. So as I said earlier on, trying to introduce things, the further that they go, the harder it is. So if you just start the moment they're born, it becomes part of their daily routine, and they will want it because they're so used to that warm, emotional, secure feeling. So it'll be fine. And it's also about kind of making it fun. You know, it's getting the right books as well. You know, before I was a writer, when Harry was born, I went into a bookshop and I bought all the old beautiful big hardback fairy tale stories and Billy Goat's Gruff and all those ones that I remembered as a kid. And I remember you know, reading them, and there was no illustrations, it was just all words. Now, they were beautiful looking books with magical stories inside, but there was only a small little illustration and lots of text. And, you know, I can't remember how old Robbie or Harry was, but I think I started reading those to him when he was a baby, but there was nothing visual there. That's why my books are highly visual. So really good illustrations. And often I'd look at a book where the illustrations are incredible, and then the writing is just, oh my God. And then the other way around, that the books are incredibly written and the illustrations just don't do them justice. So it's trying to get the right books. And then of course you get these books that don't make any sense. The kids just go mad for them for whatever reason. That, you know, they just love them. So yeah, start reading from the day they're born is my advice.
And Laura's asked, do you do readings? Have you ever done readings?
Yeah, well, obviously with COVID now, it's hard to. So I things kind of always get a little bit busier. But yeah, I go around and I've done a lot of the schools, and I do the school readings, and I bring this banner with me, and I jump in and I hide behind it, and I stick my hands out from it, and they all start giggling, and I sing a song, and I sing a little song version of the pirate book. So that's always a bit of fun. Yeah, and I come on to schools, and you know, word gets out that I'm coming, and they all come in, and I sign the books for them, and they buy a book direct off the author, and I put their names in it. So that's always a nice thing. And then they go home, and then they're told by they're loved by mum and dad when the book is read to them. So it's all good.
And is that across the country? Do you do that?
Yeah, I've done, well, it's usually kind of within the, 50 miles of Dublin type of thing, but we've gone off, and if I'm doing something further afield, it would want to be a couple of ones in a row, because to do one, it's a full day, it's a full day out of the office. And if you're driving off to Cork or something like that, you want to be getting one in the morning and one in the evening or something in the afternoon or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm often asked to do readings, and sometimes I can't do them because I'm traveling or promoting somewhere else.
I think Laura might be revving up to ask you by the looks of it.
Yeah, I see the locally or nationwide there. So Jackie organizes all of those. So because it's a full day, we do say, well, look, how many are going to be there? Actually, it's if I might try and put up the video of my book reading on there's a little video I have of me in the schools doing the readings and what I get up to. It's a bit of fun. So
well, look, I think that's been absolutely wonderful, Benji. Great to meet you again. For those of you that don't know, Benji gave our commencement speech at our graduation to our graduating Montessori teachers last year, and was very inspiring. And obviously that same message of telling children that they're loved and reading from an early age is one that can be passed on in the context of early years settings as well as in the home. So I think that went down very well, and maybe we'll even try and get you back one time, Benji.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
So look, thank you very much. That's been really wonderful, and your message, it's so simple and yet so true. And I think the world would be a better place if every child was told that they were loved every single evening.
Yeah, that's it.
Just before we finish, we did say we were going to do a bit of a giveaway of 2 sets of the 9 books written by Benji. And Mackenzie has, whilst we've been talking, used a very complicated Google algorithm to select the 2 winners from the list of names in the chat window there. And I can reveal that the 2 winners are Carolina Maywell and Paulina Heibel. So congratulations to you 2. I think we probably have your email addresses from the registration process via Eventbrite. So Mackenzie will be in touch with you, and before long you'll receive a lovely package of 9 illustrated books by Benji about Adam and the wonderful message you've heard about this evening. So thank you again to everybody that's come, and obviously especially to Benji, and we look forward to seeing those of you that would like to come to our next Reboot webinar. We look forward to seeing you then. So thanks very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye now. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you.